Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We're having a party in the Champions League, and I'm really glad that I didn't jinx us all the way after the preview that we did. Celtic came through this 1-0 winners, and I couldn't care less how we got the job done, because this was unmistakably a must-win game, given the campaign we've had to this point, the stature, the quality of the squad, and how well the manager's been managing everything throughout this kind of period. In this game, we've seen, I think, everything Celtic from start to finish, from the atmosphere to the highs, the lows, the chances you create, free scoring attacking football, but still managing to make it harder than it should be somehow, and then having us all biting our nails towards the end. In the video today, we're going to break down, all the stuff that we've seen, the good, the bad, all the in-betweens, who stood out in this game, and really what the big takeaways are now, and how we sit and stand coming into the last game against Aston Villa. As well as breaking down the match, we'll also have a look at player ratings and rankings, as well as having a look at the final Champions League game. We'll have a little foreshadow, a little look ahead to Aston Villa, how the league table stands, what the permutations could be for both of us at any point in the video today. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We recently broke through 10,000 subscribers, and we're now pushing for 18,888. Earlier today, there was of course breaking transfer news about Kyogo and Jota potentially. We've already covered that on the channel. If you missed that, it will be linked in the description of this video, as well as I'll pop it on screen at the end in case you want to just jump in and watch that after this one. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because this game was an all-action thriller right from the first whistle. We were hoping, praying, and mainly expecting that Celtic would come out the traps firing, look to get the early goal, and really look to put young boys on the back foot, take the result out of the equation early doors, and really just, really push the envelope for all the good stuff that we've done so far this year in the Champions League. And that is really the way we started. Now, Celts are here, myself, we were present for the pre-match press conference, and one of the key things that Callum McGregor mentioned in response to one or two questions was that we expect young boys to be mid-block, and that's one of these kind of football buzzwords that you kind of hear dotted around. And I think, for any of you out there that were maybe at the game or maybe weren't too sure about how this game actually shook out, that's exactly how young boys had started this game. Off the ball, they were getting their back four really high, and still, with even having that, they didn't have their forward line really that advanced, really pressing onto us, which meant then they just take up this really shallow area of the pitch. And in the first 20 minutes of this game, we were absolutely on it. We were getting stuck into it like a dog eating beetroot. Everything that we were doing was basically coming off. Some of the play was absolutely scintillating, and I thought, especially in the first 15-20 minutes, it was the Callum McGregor show. Everything he was touching was turning to gold, and he was doing everything amazing that we often highlight here on the channel that is his strengths, his repertoire, what he actually brings to this team when he's, allowed to really maximise himself. And that was driving through the middle of the pitch. That was just cutting through the opposition. His array of passing in the first 20-25 minutes of this game was one of the main features of us cutting them open. Quite similar to Rio Hatate as well. And I think with young boys being in this kind of shallow kind of shape, it was very clear that all the space on the football pitch was in and behind for the most part. So there wasn't much chance to build the play up and try and build the web like we normally do. The midfield was quite, spread out from one another just because of how shallow young boys were. But it just meant that every opportunity, guys like Hatate, Engels, McGregor, even throw the fullbacks and some of the defenders into this, they were just looking to play those balls over the top, down the channel for the likes of Dyson, for Kyogo, for Kuhn, and really all three of them got onto some amazing balls, and really all the joy and all the goals that we had in this game were very, very well earned, and we were delivering exactly everything that I'd really hoped that we would coming into this game. Now, sadly, Kyogo is offside. Callum McGregor does foul the guy in the build-up to it, so we've got a bona fide hat-trick for Kyogo, just absolutely wiped off the history books. It will not happen, and if you believe the reports that we covered in the other show earlier today, that might be his last outing at Paradise, his last time in the hoops, and a Champions League hat-trick would have been perfect for Kyogo to sign off with. And I really do feel for him that he never got that. Although he still hit the back of the net 3 times, there's still that ovation at the moment, but in the cold light of day, in the fullness of time, it's not really going to mean anything, is it? So I feel bad for him in that sense, because he's had a great career with us if that is to be his last game. And even in that, coming into this match, we were chatting about the likes of maybe Hatate, Taylor, one or two of these other players that are forever in a state of flux with Celtic fans. People either love them or hate them, and it feels like Dyson was one of those guys, but now he's totally won everyone over. And there's different reasons for the other players we're not going to go into in this video, but them two, Kyogo, there was 3 players that we were thinking, if there's a match, there's a chance in their career where they have that headline match, it could be this one. But in the opening 20 minutes, it was very much Callum McGregor, I think, that was in that mode, and he put his name all over this match from start to finish. But he was so effective and so present and impactful is probably the best word for it, directly from the middle of the pitch here all the way through the opening kind of 20-25 minutes. After the first 25 minutes of the game, once you felt young boys had been totally rattled, the ball had hit the back of the net 3 times. Dyson Maeda had a really good penalty shout, denied by the way, which is kind of forgotten about in the aftermath quite quickly, before we eventually get the Taylor penalty given for us for Arnott Engels. But before any of that kind of happens, the game kind of breaks into this state of just fouls, mainly them on us. And the referee, the yellow card he gave Kuhn, you're like, right, okay, fine, if you're going to do that, you better keep it consistent. And I think he did, he did book one of them for something quite similar, but they were just hacking us for the rest, from the 25th minute to probably about where McGregor fouls Lacombe there for the Kyogo goal. I think that was about the 31st minute. So there was genuine 5 or 6 minutes of nobody really hanging on to the ball. We foul them, they foul us. The ref gives some stuff. He probably should start to book 1 or 2 of their guys, particularly the left back. I thought he was an absolute criminal in this game, to be honest with you. But that wasn't the way it was to be. I thought Kuhn had a huge part to say in the first half. He was quite unlucky with his dribble from out wide to not find the back of the net here. And he did have some nice sparks, really, in the opening kind of 15 minutes. And then it kind of, I don't know if I'd say it kind of fizzled out, but it kind of then just didn't get put on the ball as often. And I thought that was maybe an avenue we could have exploited a little bit more. But everything was happening, everything was coming off. And even if you think about one of those Kyogo offside goals, Dyson Maeda back heeling it to Hatate, and then Hatate just scooping it over for Kyogo to go through. No, that wasn't one of the offside goals. That was the one where he shoots from here, thinking he's playing against Rangers again, and it was just an absolutely feeble shot. But the actual play where we're bringing in this game is Champions League level, is top end, and is very much a proof. It's proof of concept, the term, I'm not too sure, but it's very much a case of we've been saying we're building towards being a Champions League team. We've been acting like a Champions League team in the last transfer window, spending proper money on some proper players. And in that first half, we were scintillating, and it really did make you think on top of that as well. When we get in at half time 0-0, before any of the fear comes in, imagine we were just a little bit more like this against Zagreb or Bruges. We had some more points on the board. Genuinely, by the way, we might not, with the strength of the fixtures we had, we could have been looking at top 8, by the way. But anyway, we get in at half time, and Brendan says in his post-match that young boys have obviously read the game and they kind of changed their shape. Champions League, that's what happens. And what mainly happens, as best I can tell from TV, if you were at the game you might have a different perception, but from being shallow, they went from being shallow to being narrow. Okay, now you can't really be both at the same time, because then you're just putting all your players in the centre circle essentially. So as soon as they go narrow, they then start to have their defence a bit deeper. It then just means when we stretch out, all the space is then now no longer in and behind their defence, but it's actually in and between all of our players. And there was a little spell in the second half. I think we came out at half time still in really good fettle. Engels breaks into the box after his penalty miss and gets a good shot away. Dyson Maeda again at the near post gets quite close as well. But there was a little spell where it just felt like they had 2 men on McGregor, they had 2 men on Engels, and they just turned the ball over quite often. The boy Montero gets a shot away. And Kasper Schmeichel, like I said it in the preview, he's not going to have much to do in this game, but everything he does is going to be amongst the most important things that happen in this match. He was called upon 2 or 3 times in the game, depending on how you think of it with some of the set pieces and long shots or whatever, but 2 huge match-winning moments for him around the 65th minute with a double save, as well as, of course, right at the death. And yeah, that little spell of the game for them came once they started to kind of play in between our lines, and they started to just exploit how kind of stretched out we were. And I feel that was a big part for the reason the substitutions we got. I don't think Taylor was having a bad game. I actually think Taylor was having a pretty good game. And I think the thing with Taylor in this match is he wasn't overly the inverted fullback. It was much more of a fullback. So different kind of job. I don't think defensively he put a foot wrong. I thought all of his passes were pretty spot on. We'll have a look at the player ratings. Of course, he gets into the box to win the penalty. Never giving up on that ball, of course. And I thought Taylor did well, like a strong 7 in this game without really like materialising into like an 8 or a 9 by doing something amazing or influencing the result directly. But I thought Valley coming on was just like a bit of extra legs to kind of cover the back and forth, and it's kind of like a preemptive substitution with them making subs, Taylor kind of waning in the game, because like the second half, you really did feel that our fixture pile-up started to show in the second half, and their freshness and how much they'd been rested kind of became a strength for them in the second half. Whereas in the first half, you know, if any of you were at the game, it was a few years ago now, but it kind of had shades of Zenit. If you remember how the Zenit game was a few years ago when we'd played them right off the back of a winter break. It was a quarter-final or a playoff or whatever in the Europa League way back when. But anyway, had those kind of shades about it. So I thought the Valley move was actually rather smart. And Engels for Bernardo, I wasn't too sure about at the time. And I think, like, guys, let's take, again, to call a spade a spade. We like Bernardo here on this channel. I think he's a fine Celtic player, right? But if any of you watched the Benfica-Barcelona game, Paulo Bernardo was nowhere, is nowhere, was never going to be anywhere near the Benfica midfield, right? And if you think about the kind of paradigm of, you know, the Champions League that we're now in and all the rest of it, they're certainly very much now one of our contemporaries now. They're maybe a few windows ahead of us in terms of how strong their squad is and how active they've been in the transfer market and all the rest of it. And don't get me wrong, sometimes like we got Jota from Benfica, like one man's trash can certainly be another man's treasure. Giving somebody else their opportunity can certainly bring more out of them than previously thought. I'm all about that. Bernardo can definitely be one of those guys. Big fan of Bernardo overall. But I do think what you've seen in this game from him was his glass ceiling, where we normally see like Greg Taylor kind of hit in these kind of games where he was busy, he was around the ball often enough when he did come on, but Jesus man, was he like Bambi on ice, a bull in a china shop in a bad way. Nothing really came off for Bernardo in this game. I don't actually think he contributed anything positive off the top of my head. And I thought, you know, like if we're going to put Bernardo on, I thought why not just drop him right in and just, you know, because at this stage it's still 0-0. Of course, we're still looking to keep it tight. We can't lose any goals, of course, but we still need to go on and push to win. Valley's pace might give us an outball, of course. And with Bernardo coming on, like Bernardo isn't Engels, you know, at driving around the pitch like this and having the, like, Bernardo's got a great eye for a pass in the sense of like if he's in a tight space and there's a few players there, he knows where the best outball is and he knows where the route to goal is from there. Don't get me wrong, but I think in that kind of lung busting, getting round the pitch effort, I'd have rathered McGregor. Now, again, it's the second half. Does he have all the beans in the tank for that? Who knows? But I just thought that was a wee bit counterproductive. Maybe slowed us down a little bit. Put a lot more pressure on Hatate, who I think, like, throughout the game, continued to not put a foot wrong. And I really do think that what you've seen in this game, like, we'll look at the statistics, he still lost possession a fair amount of times, but see, actually on the ball, nobody mugs Hatate off. Defensively, if he's anywhere near the play, he very rarely does the wrong thing, makes a mistake. I think he did slip once in this match, that might have been someone else. But, like, really, Hatate was pretty flawless, one of the contenders for man of the match in this game. And I think the introduction of Bernardo just put more onus on get Hatate as our outball, Hatate is our playmaker to get the ball up and into the final third to the likes of Dyson, Kyogo, and, you know, to a lesser extent as the game went on, Kuhn. And then as things are getting desperate, you are looking at the quality of the bench and thinking, where are we going to get a resolution for this game at 0-0? Because, like, young boys for me, like, very much are like a good team. Of course, they won the league last year and all the rest of it, but in the grand scheme of things, like, you know, we are talking about like the Swiss Hearts or whatever, the Aberdeen of Switzerland, as it were, because they don't spend big money in the transfer window. They're looking to, as you see with the profile of the players they've got, like the Montero guy, Colley, Niasse, like Lakome, Chaiwa, this Ugrinich guy, like they're looking to be, I thought the right back was actually quite good as well, Atikami. They're looking to be clever, find good like athletes and then try and develop them football wise and then turn them around in the market. So they're not like up to much really for me. And Rodgers gave them a lot more credit and a lot more respect than maybe they deserved in the post-match, to be honest with you. And fair play to him, that's the prerogative of the manager, the winner and all that good stuff. But they weren't really up to much. And when we are like, struggling to break through, and their qualities are pace, power, and being like disciplined in a tactic, and you could see their game plan really develop through the match, where as it got, you know, the longer it went 0-0, the more threatening some of these guys became when they were getting set pieces, because free kicks still became a main currency of this match. It was all hands on deck, everyone back defending for us, and then trying to break out with a ball from Hatate to you know, somebody like Dyson or Adam Ida after he came on, of course. And Ida coming on for Kyogo was kind of like the final change. We didn't see anyone else from the bench come on to try and shift the balance of play in this one, which I think is quite telling in itself in terms of like the true strength and depth of the squad. So I think it was fantastic for, like, again, Hatate, when he plays that ball through for Adam Ida, I just had the, mad deja vu in so many ways for this goal going into Tony Watt against Barcelona. It's, Tony Watt gets the fortune of, like, does it come off of Xavi's head with the incisive ball from Fraser Foster? We also get a bit more fortune with it coming off of Benito and the ricochet off the save of the goalkeeper. But just the way it was like a ball that cut through the pitch, running one-on-one essentially with the keeper, and then just the way he wheels away in celebration, it was just a huge moment. And, I've seen us qualify for the next stage of the group stage now 4 times, whatever it is, and there's always, I'm actually losing count. Strachan did it twice, didn't he? O'Neill done it. Does Strachan do it twice? I'm losing my marbles now. But with the high quality play we had in this game, and with the chances or the goals that we had taken away from us, never mind the missed penalty from Engels, which I kind of did skirt over in this one. It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's a missed penalty. What can you do? We did deserve to win that game, no two ways about it. And getting your just desserts like that, I think, we'll take that all day long. And it was a real testament for the team. Now, Daizen Maeda gets sent off at the end, puts us under a bit of pressure. We have to take off Kuhn for Scales and shift into a back 5 from there for the last couple of minutes, and then it's just Ida up front by himself essentially as we kind of hang on tight. And I don't mind Scales coming into the fold for this, and I don't mind back 3s being on the menu of options for us, but I think, like, all things being equal, probably the better thing to do would have had if we had an actual defensive midfielder, because sometimes the back 5 going in that situation, you just invite problems. We did invite problems. They put their goalkeeper up into the box as well, and Kasper Schmeichel ended up securing the victory for us with essentially the last action of the match. So it might have been halfway close to being egg on our face right at the end, which would have been absolute typical Celtic, but we very much firmly deserved the win here. And before we come to look at the league table, preview a little bit of what will happen with Aston Villa and all that good stuff, we'll have a look at the player ratings for this match. Now, Kasper Schmeichel actually finishes the highest performing player on his rating out of 100 of anyone else in the squad. He made 4 saves, 3 of them shots from inside the box. He had a sweeper keeper as well, if you remember that one, where he really came far out of his box to intercept the ball. 30 accurate passes, 3 missed passes for the big man. And he won possession for us 3 times as well, like collecting a loose ball or whatever. So fair play to the big man. He was certainly put his name all over this one. I did feel that McGregor was a real standout and a proper contender for man of the match in this one. He finished with a 65 out of 100 performance, which for someone that doesn't get a goal or an assist or anything is pretty credible. Might have had a goal in this game, had a nice shot from the edge of the box. 3 contests won, actually like going by people, breaking through the lines, carrying the ball. You love to see that from McGregor, that driving force in midfield. 6 duels won, 4 lost is nice enough, I suppose. 61 accurate passes, not as usual high, but again, I think that was a nice development on the style of play that we've seen in this game. Only 3 passes missed for the wee man. 1 tackle, 1 block cross. Very good defensive output in this game. And again, defensively, like, McGregor was not found wanting, which is always a highlight. The highest performing outfield player but was Rio Hatate, who did have a really good game, it must be said, in all areas of it. He won 3 tackles in this match. He made 2 effective clearances, blocked a cross. On top of that, he won 8 duels, having lost only 4. So 4 positive duels. Like I did mention, he still lost possession 15 times. Now, statistically, when we come to look at this, like when he gets into the 20s and stuff, is normally when people are harping on his back. But that's just to kind of highlight, like, the margin of exquisite excellence, or whatever you want to call this, from Hatate, or like frustration, is actually quite thin. And this was a real high pressure, high stakes game, and I don't think there's any complaints for Hatate. Out of his 47 accurate passes, 18 of them in the final third, and he did miss 11 passes in this game as well. But he won 2 contests as well, similar to McGregor. 1 big chance created, 2 attempted assists, 4 balls into the box, and he could have scored in this game as well with some nice shots. And I did think the second one was rather unlucky. I thought he did enough to maybe beat the keeper on another day, but it wasn't to be. Alistair Johnson, the highest performing defender, didn't actually again have any kind of attacking final third contribution in this one, but 7 duels won, 3 lost is a great ratio. 2 interceptions. Pass count is nice enough. Possession lost 12. Quite lean for a fullback. 2 tackles won, effective clearances are nice to see as well. And was fouled a bunch of times, which is quite valuable in a game like this, of course. Vickers and Trusty, quite similar scores for the most part. We'll see if anything jumps out for us with them. 10 duels won by CCV. He did lose 8, but those 10 duels were nobody got by him. The other duels he lost will be like maybe 50-50s in the air and that kind of thing, 2 interceptions, nothing on the attacking sense. What about Austin Trusty? I thought he was quite good in this game. 6 effective clearances is his standout statistic so far. 69 accurate passes, duels won and all the rest, so it was quite good. I thought Trusty was quite handy in this game. Taylor did get a penalty won, but with unlike when Yang gets it, because Engels didn't score it, he's not really getting credit for it on this one. He won a tackle, he got fouled a little bit, made a foul himself. Duels won 4, lost 7, so yeah, maybe not in, like I say, a 7 out of 10 for Taylor in my book. 10 missed passes, 15 possession lost, which again for fullback isn't too bad. Final third contribution quite minimal. Yeah, maybe a 6.5. I'd give Taylor off the back of this one. Engels obviously has his penalty miss, which takes 10 points off his score, but he finishes with a 51.5 out of 100 on this one. This is normally Kyogo symptoms, is what we see here, and we'll see Kyogo's in a minute, of course, but 5 attempted assists for the big man, 11 penalty area entries with corners and stuff like that, free kicks, 5 duels won, 2 lost, pass count is nice enough, 10 missed passes, so maybe a wee bit more than I'd have thought, nice one tackle as well, and he again was very effective both sides of the ball. I've maybe undersold maybe a little bit of his defensive prowess, although I'm adamant he's not a defensive midfielder. The aforementioned Kyogo has no big chances missed in this game. I suppose all these chances were offside, because statistically he's actually clocked like very little actual impact in this game, which is unfortunate for him. Daizer Maeda sent off. Nicholas Kuhn, not sure there's anything really to look at there, and the bench is all just kind of nominal, isn't it? And this is how we sit in the Champions League at the moment. 7 games played on 12 points. And once we come to the final game, we'll look back at my predictions. I think I had us on 14 or 15 points by all things being told. And I had us down to draw the last game at Villa Park. So let's see how it shakes out, because Villa did just lose to Monaco. And they are now, like, Aston Villa do not want to finish in the playoff zone. They cannot handle the fixture pile-on with their squad. It's very good. It's rather deep, but it's not mad deep, and they've got a lot going on at the moment. They don't want more matches is the bottom line. They really need to beat us. They need to beat us. A draw might not be enough for them to secure into the top spots here, depending on how results go elsewhere. And for us, we're only 1 point behind Villa. Like, if we beat them, we are right in the chat for it. Now, we'll chat about how that might be a problem and what might be the main issue here. But like I said in the preview coming into the Young Boys game, like, we should be firmly 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 seasons. We should be looking for 10 games in the Champions League. We should be looking to be in this playoff zone. We should be thinking of ourselves and carrying of ourselves as being a top half team. Now, there is something to add into this, because we're not quite fixture proof yet. Like, if we got Leipzig's fixture list, for example, like, we might be in a similar position to them, regardless of how much money we spend, regardless of how good the manager is, etc. So there is always a little bit of force majeure that I think is in this new format of the Champions League. But I say 3 times out of 4, 4 times out of 5, you kind of legislate for that. We should be looking to qualify, and on the odd occasion where we're not. So it's great to see us actually sitting firmly in there, and like, I don't see us getting beat off of Villa. I'm just going to say it. I do not see Villa beating us in this game. I'm not going to go all the way to totally preview the match at this point. Now, if Daizer Maeda suspended, and let's just assume Kyogo's not going to make this game, this is probably the front 3, and that's maybe where we're at a slight disadvantage to being like optimal coming into this game. But Villa need the win. We're going to have a great away support, and I've been to Villa Park. Like, it's a lovely stadium. It's going to be a great Champions League night under the floodlights, and we do very well in these matches, Battle of Britain stuff. We've just got that extra kind of edge about us as Celtic, you know, and I think we'll bring that to the party. And with all the pressure being on them, like, we want to break into space now. If we have Kyogo, we've got a much better chance of doing this, of course, but we definitely won't have Maeda. And Yang is also a wee bit, like, it might not be, you know, maybe there's an idea to play someone like Hatate in the front 3 and bring like McKeown or Bernardo into the midfield potentially. That's a conversation that might be had a little bit closer to the time. But in any case, like, Nicholas Kuhn against Lucas Digne, Yang, like Matty Cash or Costa, their right backs aren't that formidable. If Yang can be as busy and as active as we've seen him before, then, you know, like, I don't see us losing. We might lose, but I don't see us getting pumped. I don't see this being like a Dortmund affair, or like, you know, in these games that have went away from us before when we play like one of the teams that are probably like one of the richest 20 clubs in the world or whatever. I don't see that sort of game happening despite our weaknesses. I think that will just mean that we do need to focus on being like in Atalanta mode, being just defensive and compact and make sure we don't make any mistakes. But I think because the pressure's off, like, we could just take chances when they come, and we might need to have some different solutions to problems, which Unai Emery, who is all about like chess ball, like, he will really have us scouted, and he'll know He is going to be all over Greg Taylor and Yang. Like, he's just going to be doing it. He's going to be playing people in McGregor's shadow. Unai Emery's going to have as well scouted, make no mistake about it. But it still gives you the opportunity to play a bit of a wild card, because there is an unknown element of who will be the front three in a lot of ways. Will Kyogo still be in the building? That'll be discovered before kickoff, of course. But even at that, is it Yang? Is it Palma? Is it Valley? Or something crazy like that? Does he do Hatate? Do we even change the shape slightly? So maybe some curveballs that could happen in this one. And like, it's an absolute free hit. We're qualified. We're into the playoffs. And I'm hoping this weekend against Dundee, we really put on a show before we go to Villa Park, where some of the key players can, have their moment in the sun again at Paradise. We can sing about all the success we're having at the moment, and then really set the table for that Aston Villa game, that Battle of Birmingham, that Battle of Britain, where, we don't need to make up for anything. We've qualified, we're doing great, but, we can easily forget the Bruges, the Zagreb stuff. If we get something at Villa as well, it'll just really push us over the top, I think, for having an outstandingly successful, huge season for progression in the Champions League. I had a great time watching the game last night, despite me biting all my fingernails down and all the heart attacks that I think we all shared. Wouldn't have had it any other way. We got the job done in the end. That was all we asked for. And we played well enough where it wasn't like scandalous that we got a goal the way we got it. I'm always excited to see these videos when they come out, to see the comment section, to see what your guys' thoughts and feelings were. Who was your man of the match? Who was your big takeaways? And even from the Champions League campaign, it's not quite dust. It's not over yet, but how are you feeling at this stage? Because now we're done. We are in there. Thoughts, feelings, and all that good stuff. On screen now is the live stream we did earlier today, looking at Kyogo and Jota, as well as a link to the live stream that'll be on later tonight with me, McBride Ace, maybe one or two guests, previewing Dundee, Aston Villa, everything we spoke about, and the last pieces of content on this channel, as well as maybe some other stuff that we've made the YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you're watching this after we've been live, all that stuff will be viewable at the moment. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more content like this. Hail, hail, and Mon the Hoops.